Hey guys, Marsinged here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are going to jump in and take a look at the movie bosses team, now that we have the buff from the TEQ Janemba, and see how we get on in this event. We are starting off with an absolutely terrible orb field here. I don't actually know if I can even... Actually, no, if I do this, this will connect all the reds, won't it? So, at least we can get the orbs for Janemba here. Not the best starting rotation either, to be totally honest. So, not the craziest start, but I guess we'll see how well we can recover in this situation. But we're doing the Battle Hardened Formidable Foes event because I feel like, you know, you've got the red zones, and some of the final stages are obviously very difficult. This event is probably one of the more difficult ones in the game, I think, overall, just because of how hard some of these bosses are hitting right from the start. But we do have a lot of characters on the team now that are getting a lot of damage reduction. We do have characters that are able to do certain status effects. Obviously, like the Turles army has the potential to stun here in the first turn. So yeah, I thought we would just see how we get on with this team. We have the double TEQ Broly leads for the full 200% movie bosses. Obviously, we didn't get either of them on the first turn, so that's a not super ideal start. You can see the next rotation is going to be double TEQ Broly and then the Broly Trio. Broly Trio are an interesting addition for the team. Obviously, they can be a bit of a liability. It's all kind of orb RNG dependent. But one thing I always kind of forget that they do, and I feel like some people forget they do, is that when they're attacking, when you get 24 ki with them, they give movie bosses or super bosses allies an extra 10% damage reduction, which when you think about like how much damage reduction we already have on this team, it can create a pretty crazy amount of defensive capability. I don't know if we're going to be able to get 7 orbs. There's this really annoying like cluster here in the middle. If I do this, it's just going to drop all the AGL orbs down to the bottom. If I do this, we're going to get stuck under these. The only thing I can really do is do this and hope that we get a better... Yeah, there we go. Get a decent drop down from the top there. So that helps out a little bit. Because yeah, with an extra 10% damage reduction, it means that the TEQ Brolys basically can't take any damage on this turn. Well, obviously they'll take double digit damage, but that's the most they'll actually be able to take. It's still very funny to me, we've talked about this multiple times in the past, right, but it is still funny to me that you can have characters get to 100% damage reduction or higher, and then they still take double digit damage. It's one of the things that makes the survive KO mechanic so completely pointless. Because you survive the KO attack, the attack that would kill you on like 1 HP, but then if you're taking any more attacks in the rest of the turn, it means you just die. Because apart from the only difference is countering a super or negating a super. The only instances where you can take 0 damage, or dodging, obviously. But yeah, it's like, it means surviving the KO attack is kind of pointless if you're just going to die in the follow-up hit. So interesting. I wonder why they've made that decision to have damage reduction work like that. The fact that you still take some damage, because obviously now we're getting bosses that have the damage threshold. So if you're not doing enough damage to certain bosses, they take 0 damage, which is kind of funny considering that's not a thing that our units are actually able to do in the game now. It's kind of funny. So we'll do this. We'll keep Janemba in slot 3. Gives that a little bit of support. Obviously he's better in either slot 1 or 3. I think the physical LR Janemba, especially once he gets built up, paired up with this TEQ Janemba getting all the support, is obviously going to be very, very good here. Obviously the first, I guess with the movie bosses team, a stage like this is going to go a little bit slower. I suppose it didn't help that we had double TEQ Broly to start. But obviously TEQ Broly being a character that you get like for his first turn obviously isn't going to be doing any damage. Obviously doesn't help in terms of like speeding along the event, but you know, the more interesting thing is how well the team can actually stand up defensively, considering, I mean, this is the first phase of the first fight, right, and Kefla super attacks for 2.8 million, so it's the difference with Battle Hardened Formidable Foes compared to a lot of other events in the game is you can't just bring in characters that need like 2 or 3 turns to build up to being able to tank like 2 to 3 million damage hits, because those characters will then just potentially get you killed like straight away at the beginning of the event, which is obviously not what we want. And then yeah, the Broly trio, kind of awkward here with the orbs again. I think the biggest problem with having an orb changer that doesn't actually like having a nuking style unit that doesn't actually like create orbs is always a huge issue, because yes, it's always going to be a battle against RNG as to whether or not you're able to actually even get some of these abilities to go off. Okay, well, we'll just do this. Gives everyone else a little bit of an attack boost. TEQ Broly, of course, will action break here, although I mean we took the super straight away. I mean, you can see when a Rainbow TEQ Broly is taking 300k in slot 1 from the first phase boss, that's how you know that this event is going to be this event was going to be difficult right from the jump. It is an interesting style of event. It's funny to think of it. We talked about it at the time, like, you know, during the anniversary when this event first dropped and we were getting all the stages. It's like super mega extreme super battle road, basically, because, you know, it's very hard right from the start. It maintains that difficult. Well, it does get harder, but it starts off already at the high difficulty level rather than being phase based. And then it's multiple separate fights within the same event. You can apply status effects to the bosses. So it's similar to Super Battle Road, but just kind of juiced up like a little bit more. I think we'll do this. I want to make sure I can get the orbs for Janemba, so we'll do that. Yeah, because he needs 3 type orbs, so we'll do that. Get him his full buff with the full support, and then we can grab those for physical Janemba. But yeah, physical Janemba as well, remember, is a unit that has a extra chance to dodge supers, can negate Ki Blast supers, and then TEQ Janemba, like, obviously this is a movie bosses team, so TEQ Janemba supports extreme units, and then if we get the type orbs, is giving extra support to Corroded Body and Mind or Uncontrollable Power, which obviously on this team build is going to be the Brolys and the Janembas, right? So obviously if we've got units like the Turles army and the Broly trio floating around, they're not going to get the extra support from the TEQ Janemba, but they are still getting the 30% like general support that he gives to extreme units. So that's why it's interesting, because I wanted to make a movie bosses team with some of the more recent movie bosses characters. Like, I really wanted to put Slug on the team, but then obviously you look at Slug's passive and he really wants to have those demonic power allies with him. You got Bojack, who could probably still work on the team, but wants to have like space traveling warriors allies to get his full passive. So movie bosses at the moment has a couple of characters on the roster who are quite good, but don't gel like perfectly with the rest of the team. Another unit that I contemplated bringing for the team build was TEQ Beerus, but obviously he's a super class character, so he doesn't get any of the support from Janemba. So he kind of doesn't, it doesn't feel like he really fits the like archetype for this team build either. So be interesting to see if we do actually get any movie bosses buffs anytime soon. Of course, we just got Cell as the April Dokkan Fest, the first extreme like 220 leader, but his categories and his leader skill not exactly built around making like a super strong extreme team. So I think we're probably still all patiently waiting when it comes to these big extreme teams, waiting for like a big movie bosses character or something to get a release, and really give this team a buff that isn't reliant on some of these other categories like Slug with demonic power, Bojack with space traveling warriors. Obviously Broly like leading the movie bosses team, the TEQ Broly, can be an issue with certain link setups and stuff like that, because of course Broly doesn't get big bad bosses for some bizarre reason. So it would be good to see a new big movie boss character. A new Bojack would be quite cool. I know people want to see like a new Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, like the Easy A for the TEQ LR. I think we have like the AGL full power one that could get an Easy A. The Dokkan Fest STR one is probably not completely outdated at this point, so if we got a new Dokkan Fest Bojack, he could be like a full power, just straight away starting off as full power Bojack. or maybe even a Dokkan Fest version of the like Bojack and crew. I think that would be very good for like an Extreme Dokkan Fest, theming it around like movie bosses, and then you could have this sort of like proper full big bad bosses like movie bosses team, which I think would be certainly quite interesting. Still can't get 7 orbs easily here though, which is annoying. So if we do this, and then, oh wow, we can't get the orbs for Janemba either. Yikes. Well, we could transform them, I guess. In fact, yeah, let's transform TEQ Janemba here. Get a little bit of the extra orb changing as well. That's what we like to see. In fact, we could. Janemba, what do we need to get for him? It's only it's 3 or more type orbs to get an extra 100% attack and defense and an additional super. Yeah, so annoyingly, that's if there was only one more like STR orb at the side, we could save these and make sure that we're getting the 7 orbs for the Broly trio. But honestly, with this kind of rotation, it probably is better to just do this. Get the 7 orbs, and then have TEQ Janemba float off, get all of those. So he's now got all of his buffs. So that's the thing, TEQ Janemba now transformed isn't a support, but he's going to be able to do a decent bit of damage whilst also being a dodge-based defensive unit. Gets a lot of stats like on super, so it's one of those things with the Broly trio on the team. It's kind of a risk running them in the first place, so if you can get into the situation where you can get 7 orbs of them, you probably should take that like opportunity, because there's a lot of attacks in this middle slot, which we'd obviously be counting on Janemba to dodge. I mean, the Super Saiyan 2 Kefla hits for 3.3 million damage, so I think TEQ Janemba probably would get killed if he didn't dodge a super. Whereas now, all of these attacks that are built up in the middle, it doesn't really matter if one of them is a super attack, because we're not going to get hit by any of these attacks. And there we go. That's where this unit can come in handy. Now, obviously, Janemba was a massive help on this rotation, because we wouldn't have probably been able to get the 7 orbs in slot 2 or 3 if we hadn't transformed Janemba. TEQ Janemba untransformed wasn't going to be able to get the orbs that he wants either. So I do quite like this TEQ Janemba EZA for sure. They improved his base like pretty decently, considering that was the form that most people were used to using him in, and then they've actually made his like transformed version like something you actually want to use. Here we go, we're getting another super 36 mil, so some pretty big damage overall, and then yeah, we just go ahead and dodge both the attacks in slot 3 so we don't take any damage. And now we've got the rage mode for the physical Janemba. I mean, again, this is definitely one of those teams, as I said a bit earlier on, right, where it's definitely on a bit of a go slow in compared to other team setups. Like this is, you know, we're on turn 8 against a fight with the 3 phases. I mean, they do have a lot of HP. I mean, Kefla, she's got, what, 90 million in each phase? And as I say, running this team, especially with double tech Broly, you always lose out on a bit of like damage output, because of course the very first turn with Tech Broly is he's not going to be doing any damage, right? I mean, I guess in these shorter events you probably could just go ahead and transform Tech Broly like on turn 1 to make the most of it, I suppose. But yeah, we get the super attack during the rage mode here, so the rage mode is just completely cancelled out. The super attack is cancelled out by the rage mode, I should say. And that gives us a safe next turn. I mean, this team has a lot of tricks like in its bag, right? Janemba with the rage mode, the TEQ Janemba transformation is now like going from being a support unit to being a unit that can handle slot 1. The Turles army giving all that support. Obviously the Broly trio is kind of like a very RNG dependent unit, but of course can be very, very good. They lower attack on super as well, which is really useful. I actually completely forgot that Kefla can super attack twice, so there you go. Kefla can super twice. That would have been 5 million. Actually, yeah, I said she supers for 3.3. She actually greatly raises attack on super, so it's like 4.8 or something, and then you saw there it was like over 5 million on the actual rage mode Janemba, because she has type advantage, and it's the super class versus extreme like modifier as well. So pretty crazy. Go ahead and do that, and then do that. And so yeah, we'll have only made it through like the first fight in 8 turns and 15 minutes of gameplay. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's not a sprint when it comes to these kind of events. If you can make it through, defense is so much more important, I think, in the current meta than it ever has been. Because having characters that can drop like, you know, 30 million attack stat. Like, let's say a character, we get like character that can do 2 or 3 30 or 40 million attack stat supers in a turn. I mean, that's good. Obviously not to say anything about like, oh, that's bad damage or anything like that. But bosses now are having so much HP that whilst that's still impressive damage compared to like metas of the past, if that character is dropping those like 30 to 40 million attack stats, but then they struggle to even tank like normal attacks, those characters are just not going to be very good like in the current meta, right? So this team has a lot of good stuff going for it when it comes to defensive mechanics. Again, the Broly trio, despite being a bit of a liability sometimes with the orbs, like getting that 24 key and giving everyone else on the team an extra 10% damage reduction is huge, right? Because like, let's say we have them on rotation with TEQ Janemba on his first turn before he takes any hits. That means when he's taking the first hit, he's not only got guard, he's got 90% damage reduction. TEQ Broly, again, is like essentially invincible on the turn with the Broly trio. And then, of course, if you can get the 7 orbs, you can do stuff like this, where you just put them in slot 1, and we dodge every single attack, including the super. They lower attack on their super as well, which makes them really useful for this event in particular. So yeah, the Movie Bosses team definitely looking in a good spot here in the post-anniversary meta. Obviously, for something like a red zone where you can't have any status effects, it's going to be a little bit different, but those events are, you know, a little bit longer, or even when they end up being the same kind of length, I guess, they're the ones that you start out at least a little bit weaker with the bosses and then build up to the same kind of levels that we're seeing from, you know, some of these bosses here. So let's float off the Int Janemba here, sorry, the TEQ Janemba, because he really on this team, his main role should be to be a floating support unit. And that's what makes him so good, right? Is on this very first turn, he's going to super first, which means he's going to have his post-super defense. Then he's got guard and 80% damage reduction. Then he's taking, what, like 4 hits in slot 3 here? So he's going to lose like 20% of his damage reduction. Even if the last attack of the turn is a super, he's only down to having, he'll be at 65% damage reduction with guard and his post-super defense. So he's still going to look very, very good defensive-wise while providing support. Obviously, on this rotation, we've got Broly and a Janemba, so Uncontrollable Power and Corroded Body and Mind. They're both getting 60% attack and defense from TEQ Janemba on this turn. So I guess that would be one of the things that would be really good, obviously, if we were talking about getting like a new Movie Bosses Dokkan Fest exclusive character to be like a Movie Boss leader. If they were a character that were on Uncontrollable Power or Corroded Body and Mind, that would obviously be very helpful. I don't think Bojack is on Uncontrollable Power, unfortunately. So that idea of him being the ideal next one, I guess, is a little bit different. And it's not a Movie Bosses team, of course, but remember that, you know, Dokkan Fest Baby is still something that we are very much waiting to see. He is a Corroded Body and Mind character. So depending on his leader skill, with all the categories that he's on, he could make a very good lead for a full extreme team of characters with big bad bosses, and then Janemba would be giving him the extra buff because of the Corroded Body and Mind category. So this TEQ Janemba definitely very solid EZA with very good potential for these other extreme teams. But yeah, Movie Boss is definitely looking in a good spot here. You can go ahead and transform you. The problem with the trio here as well is the fact that because they have big bad bosses but Broly doesn't, so it's probably better for them to be here, because then at least we get big bad bosses active. But I don't want to lose out on the ability to get 7 orbs. We will give some extra key to the allies by picking up the orbs with the trio though, so that sorts you out there. That gets you to 24 key as well. So solid turn here. Again, TEQ Broly, already a strong defensive character, getting an extra 10% damage reduction from the trio. Also then picking up TEQ Orbs gives everybody a little bit of an extra defensive buff. Picking up the Rainbow Orb gives everybody a little bit of extra attack and defense. So yeah, definitely a very good team. Probably won't play all the way through the length of this event, considering how how slow the team can be, but you guys get the gist, I'm sure, at this point, right? I mean, Giant Ribrianne hits for 4.5 million with her super attack, so be interesting to see if she actually is able to land a super on anyone during this phase, and how much damage we would take. Because of course, again, another turn with 7 orbs means the trio not going to be taking any damage here. We're attack lowering, which is obviously very helpful. I believe they greatly lower attack on both of their supers as well, so that makes our ability to do damage with normals to the rest of the team even lower. And then of course the Turles army have their own like damage reduction, plus the extra that they're getting from the Broly trio. 19 million attack stat from them. I'm so glad they got a good easy A. Turles army, like on release, were like my favourite yellow coin LR in the game. I've always been a big fan of the extreme teams and like big bad bosses setups. So it's good to see that these guys still usable to a certain extent. Obviously in events without status effects, without attack lowering and stuff like that, they certainly can be a liability. They need certain allies on the team in order to get the build up of their passive damage reduction. In fact, we can see right here that it might be bad timing. How much are they taking from this? 1.1 million. So typical, as I glaze the Turles army, they get killed. But I would say, to counter any sort of like disrespect towards the Turles army, Ribrianne, like I say, hits for 4.5 million, and we obviously have the super versus extreme modifier as well. So considering she's actually hitting for over like 5 million damage, that was one of those unfortunate situations where it's like the slot 3 support unit on the team is the one that eats the super, and unfortunately in that situation a lot of the time that does result in death. But them taking just over 1 million from a 5+ million damage attack is still pretty good. Obviously with a new movie boss's lead with like a full 220, I don't know if that's probably not enough, like an extra 40% for them to be able to tank it. But in fact, let me double check their thing, because they get it's per terrifying conquerors or planetary destruction. Yeah, so that's the thing. The planetary destruction characters are the 2 leader Brolys and then the Turles army. So actually they were missing out on potential 20% damage reduction if we built the team slightly differently. So in a better case scenario, and with that new 220 lead that we could see for movie bosses, they potentially would even live that, which, you know, again, for taking a 5 million damage super, not terrible. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. What is your favorite build of the movie bosses team? How have you been enjoying the TEQ Janemba Easy A? Let me know in the comments. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ninja, and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.